Good morning. Ready? We're ready? Good morning, everyone. My name is Verlin Williams. I'm the pastor of Union Baptist Church and the vice chairman of the Westchester Congregational Alliance. On behalf of the Union Baptist Church and the Westchester Congregational Alliance, our chairperson, the Reverend Dr. Gregory Smith, we welcome you to this exciting event that we are hosting this morning. This morning is the first time that the Westchester Congregational Alliance will hold an event, hopefully to benefit our community. The Westchester Congregational Alliance is a group of Westchester pastors who came together in 2019 in order to organize for the purpose of benefiting our community in any way we can, namely in housing, in addressing our housing disparity and economic disparities. And so today we are blessed to partner with a White Plains organization, the Westchester Housing Initiative, whose vision it is to help to engender housing and affordable housing, to lift our communities out of impoverishment through housing and house ownership. And so today we are blessed to have them. Today you'll hear from the CEO of the Community Housing Initiative, Mr. Ron Abad, and his staff will be presenting this morning. We are grateful to have Citibank here this morning to underwrite the expenses for this program. And at the end of this program, we ask that you would stop by their table to pick up the literature that they have for you. We're excited that you are here today, and it's our hope that we'll share information that will make a difference in your life. And so now we are going to hear from a board member, Reverend Dr. Edward O. Williamson, the pastor of Bethel Baptist Church. Following Dr. Williamson, then we will hear from the CEO of CHI, Mr. Ron Abad.
Good morning. We in a church, and it's just natural, I just do a praise the Lord or something like that. Amen. Amen. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. If it had not been for the Lord, we wouldn't be here. And so I want to just take those moments. Amen. We do praise God, from whom all blessings flow. For the Lord is good. His mercy is everlasting, and his truth endures to all generation. I'm excited about this event today. To our host, pastor, and our vice president, Dr. Williams, thank you. Thank you for the welcome, and thank you for opening the edifice to us. My task here is to say a little bit about it. I was thinking about when I first came into this area 18 years ago. And one of the first things I noticed was the disparity in home ownership. And so the Journal News at that time did an article on me and said what would be my areas of focus and concern as a new pastor in the area. And at the top of the list was home ownership, affordable housing, because that is a challenge for us today. As we look at it over the years in Westchester County, there's only 37% of black minority-owned home ownership as compared to 73% for the majority culture. And that is a definite gap. Also, I have young people that want to buy homes and want to establish themselves in this community, but they cannot afford it. So many are, if not moving into the outer areas of our county and outer regions, they have to leave the area. When they leave the area, they take their gifts, they take their skills, they take their talents to other areas. So home ownership becomes very important, because once you own a home in a community, you become vested in that community. You become vested in what happens. So there's something about home ownership that helps you to anchor yourself in a way to your community. Also, it does something for you to have what we call generational wealth, the ability to have and pass on wealth to future generations. Oftentimes begins with home ownership. My own daughter is a benefit of that, as she experienced a home being passed on to her from her in-laws, and having that foundation to start with. So that's what it's about. We're today focusing on home ownership. In the future, we'll be having seminars on financial management and wealth building, closing the wealth gap. I'm just supposed to be here for a moment. I'm not the presenter today. I'm just to present the presenter, but I want people to know that as pastors in the local churches, Bethel Baptist Church, Union Baptist Church, Christ Temple Church of God in Christ, and also Calvary Baptist Church, these 5 churches have come together for the purpose of community development, not only uplifting our congregations, but also uplifting our communities. So I want to present to some and introduce to others Mr. Ron Abad, who is the CEO of CHI.
Good morning, all. Yes. Good morning, Bishop, pastors. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, Union Baptist Church, Westchester Congregational Alliance. We thank you. We welcome you to this pathway to home ownership. Thank you for the opportunity to serve, and we are very blessed to have this conversation, this discussion this morning. WCA offers this home ownership seminar in conjunction with Community Housing Innovations. I'm Ron Abad, CEO of Community Housing Innovations. We are a not-for-profit, a 30-year not-for-profit organization based here in White Plains. We provide affordable housing, supportive housing. We operate homeless shelters, eviction, foreclosure, home ownership programs here in Westchester, Long Island, Hudson Valley, and New York City. We're a very broad-based organization, and we believe that home ownership is the bedrock for wealth creation. It has been the bedrock for wealth creation for all Americans for centuries. And to give the entire congregation sort of a little historical fact, that is how wealth was expanded for other populations for hundreds of years historically, through home ownership. And there were laws in place, there were redlining practices in place that were highlighted towards particular communities, particularly the Black and Hispanic communities, to restrict them from owning a home or building generational wealth to pass on to those children. As a first-time homeowner in my own family, I am proud to be CEO of an organization that fosters wealth creation in our communities and that builds this alliance. And to give you a second historical fact, it was the Black church, hundreds of years, 2 decades, centuries actually, that was the leader in economic justice, economic empowerment, wealth creation for all African Americans, and as a consequence for Hispanic, Asians, and poor whites for hundreds of years. The Black church has been leader in moving forward, and that there's a spiritual revival plus an economic revival. The Black church has historically created and forged opportunities that strengthen communities through economic and community development activities, resulting in affordable housing, homeownership, healthcare, jobs, entrepreneurship, access to capital, and wealth creation, says Dr. Gregory Smith, chairman of the WCA. We are committed to not only the spirituality of our members, but their economic well-being, says Dr. Verlin Williams of the Union Baptist Church, the host. Homeownership is the bedrock for wealth creation in the United States. Say I, Ron Abad. It's really important that the bedrock of our continued financial literacy outreach for community development be centered around an educational component, making information available to the members of our congregations and the community at large, says James Basin. If there's anything we need is combined partnerships between church, not-for-profit, banking, government, et cetera, to move us to the next level of wealth creation in addition to spiritual development in our communities. I'd like to thank Citibank for partnering with us. Citibank has a long-standing tradition of investing in communities, of investing in home ownership, of being a leader in the banking industry, and we thank them for their partnership. Today, what we will do from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. is do this home ownership seminar. And my team, led by Tiffany, and I'll introduce her in a few minutes, will go through a seminar where we will discuss down payment savings plans, down payment assistance programs, how to establish and improve your credit, affordable ownership, do I qualify? Where do I begin? The mortgage loan pre-qualification process. How much can I qualify for? And available first home buyer resources. We need practical tools, we need resources, we need knowledge and information to move us forward. As Bishop mentioned, there are stats, there is data that we need. We operate not only out of feeling, we also operate out of data. Recently, the Westchester Community Foundation issued an index called the Westchester Index that covers the periods of 2016 to 2020, a 4 or 5 year period, major indicators for the entire Westchester County, covering every area possible: childcare, home ownership, poverty, across the board. And as Bishop alluded, and I'll restate the stats, based on that index, which was just launched a few weeks ago, 64% in Westchester County for the period of 2016 to 2020, 64% of Asians are homeowners. 73% of whites in Westchester County are homeowners. 37% of African Americans are homeowners. And 35% of Hispanics, Latinos in Westchester County are homeowners. There's a double home ownership rate for white population and clearly for the Asian population. And for blacks and Hispanics, it's significantly less. There's a significant gap in home ownership, and we need to do better as a community. Particularly for White Plains, Asian homeownership is at 42%. This is for White Plains alone. The index is powerful because it gives you the ability to go into towns. You can go into Peekskill, you can go into Rye, Sleepy Hollow, White Plains. It also compares Westchester County versus Putnam versus Nassau counties, and it also compares New York State and Westchester versus the United States as a whole. For White Plains specifically, Asian homeownership rate is 42%. For whites, is 63%. For Black African American, 40%. And for Hispanic, 32%. Homeownership is the basis, for wealth creation and generational wealth being passed on. Why are we here? Why have we been here? There's a history of exclusion, I mentioned, of redlining, restrictive covenants that prevent folks from passing homes or even living in certain communities in our country. And the Black church has been a leader in reducing those barriers and working hard to have more freedom and access to capital moving forward. And so what do we need? We need more education, more seminars like this. We need more homeownership education, counseling, foreclosure and eviction prevention, credit savings, et cetera. We need more affordable housing and more affordable homeownership, and we need more partnerships. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Tiffany Kilpatrick. She's our Director of Homeownership. And what we would do, Tiffany, for the next 30 minutes, will give the homeownership seminar, And then Paula Greenberg from Citibank will give the banking aspect of home ownership for the following 30 minutes. And then we will open it up for Q&A for about 15 to 30 minutes, given the time period, and then I'll close out, and then Pastor will close out when needed. Tiffany Kilpatrick, I'm very proud of her. She is a leader in our team. She's a star. She's just everything, and we are very, very proud. I'm very proud of her as a CEO to be part of my team, and Jessica is also part of the team. We're very proud. We are committed. Our main office here in White Plains, but we also have a second main office out in Long Island. And I believe in strong leadership. I believe leaders develop leaders. I believe that particularly we want to foster and grow young leaders, and Tiffany Kilpatrick is that. She's been with us since 2019, and she comes with a significant amount of experience, 14 years in the banking industry. She's has a master's degree in organizational leadership from Nyack College, a bachelor's degree in organizational management from Nyack College. She's certified, educated in financial capacity, rental counseling, pre-purchase counseling, foreclosure counseling, HUD counseling. And she's an active member of the Women's Home and Overseas Missionary Society at the Park Street AME Zion Church in Peekskill. Let's welcome Tiffany.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Amen, amen. And good morning to everybody who is online today. My name is Tiffany Kilpatrick. I'm the director of the Homeownership and Housing Retention Programs at Community Housing Innovations. So I just need the presentation. Can we bring the presentation up? While they're bringing up the presentation, I just want to tell you a little bit about Community Housing Innovations. I know Ron definitely gave a really good overview of what we do. My programs, we can help you with counseling, pre-purchase education, post-purchase education. We have a first-time homebuyer grant program, which I will talk to you all about today. We also have a down payment assistance loan program that I'll talk to you about today. But on the other side of what I do, we also offer housing retention services for people who may be having a difficult time staying housed. We offer foreclosure prevention services, eviction prevention services, and we also offer financial literacy counseling, because financial literacy really is the core of everything. You can get money, but the key to maintaining money is being able to understand how to manage it. The homeownership and housing retention team consists of, okay, there we go. Arsenio Stevens, the intake coordinator. Jessica Walker. Jessica, wave your hand. She's the counselor for Westchester County, so anybody that goes through the program would work directly with Jessica, so you have a face to put to the name, so she's here with us today. India Marin is our homeownership counselor for a different area. Bria Jones, she's the housing retention counselor, so anybody who's interested in our eviction and foreclosure prevention services, she would assist you, and then I'm the director of the programs. So, at Community Housing Innovations, we offer a first-time down payment assistance grant up to $40,000. So for me, I'm from Westchester. I grew up in Portchester. I went to Kennedy. I went to Portchester Middle School. My family is in White Plains in Portchester. I had never heard of this program. Much of my family has never heard of this program, and that's a part of the problem, because a lot of the people that apply are from the city, and they move into our area, and then we're priced out. So I'm really happy to be here to speak to people that are from this area, who live here, who grew up here, and who are interested in staying here. So one of the first things to be qualified for the grant program is you must be a first-time home buyer. Well, what's the definition of a first-time home buyer? It's one who hasn't owned a home previously, even if you've owned a home in the past 3 years. So if you were married and you got divorced from your spouse 3+ years ago, you are a first-time home buyer and you qualify for this program. If you had a house and you foreclosed on your house 5-6 years ago, you qualify for this program. You are a first-time home buyer. You must meet our income limits, which are on our website, and I believe there's some handouts that Jessica gave everyone, which shows you what our income limits are. They're moderate. They're 80% of the AMI for Westchester County. They're also available on our website. The mortgage must be from one of our participating lenders. The reason why you have to work with the participating lenders is we vet these lenders to make sure that they have sound customer service practices and that they don't engage in predatory lending. Because we want to make sure that you're sustainable in home ownership, and we don't want you to be in a product where 10, 15, 20 years from now, your mortgage rate will adjust and you can no longer afford your home. One of those lenders is Citibank, and Paula's going to tell you a little bit more about that. You must invest 3% of your own funds into the home purchase. So if you have a pre-approval that is $400,000, you must come to the table with $12,000. That's the minimum. However, we recommend having 10, 15, 20%, not really for the home purchase, but moving is expensive. You want to get furniture, you're going to want to do your lawn, you want to paint. All of those components of buying a home are really, really expensive. So the minimum to qualify is 3%, but we always recommend that you have more, and we work with you to help you build your savings even while you're in the program. You cannot, on the other hand, have more than 25% of assets. So what does that mean? If you have a mortgage pre-approval that's $400,000, you can't have $150,000 in your bank account because essentially you don't need our money. So those are some of the guidelines as it comes to the finances. You cannot be in a contract to purchase, and the grant funds aren't available till closing. So the funds are not given to you directly. We facilitate the movement of all funds. They're held in escrow for you from the beginning of the end. So we will hold it in escrow. At closing, we will write a check on your behalf for the funds. You must complete a homebuyer education course, which we offer. And if you're interested in any other grant programs or any loan programs that are provided for first-time homebuyers, you're going to need education. Almost everyone requires pre-purchase education, and we offer that course as well. This is really important. The grant funds are split. They're 49, 51%. So what does that mean? 49% of the funds go towards your down payment and your closing costs, but 51% has to go towards renovation and rehabilitation. So you cannot buy a property that's newly rehabbed, nor can you buy a property that is newly constructed. The reason for that is we receive our funding from the state of New York, and they want to see communities revitalized. So that's the reason why you have to split the money that way. Therefore, you cannot take all of the money for your down payment, neither can you take all of the money for your renovation. It has to be split. The maximum purchase price for Westchester County is $520,000. I know that property values are on the rise, especially with the pandemic. A lot of people took time to reevaluate what home looks like and wanted to move out of apartments and buy houses. So there's definitely been a boom in the housing market. However, the maximum purchase price for us at this time is $520,000. But that is enough for you to afford a single-family home in Westchester. Grant applicants, you must meet our income and debt-to-income ratios. Those are also in the guidelines and the handouts that are available for you outside. You must adhere to annual residency monitoring. What does that mean? For 10 years, we have a vested interest in your property because we give you money. So for those 10 years, you have to let us know that you're still in the property. We send you a letter every year. You notarize that letter saying that you live in the property, and you send us proof of insurance. If we do not hear from you, I literally have to knock on your door to make sure that you live there. So this is a very important process, because if you're not in the house, then we will have a stop on your grant funds, which will then directly and negatively impact your mortgage. So we offer down payment assistance for single-family homes, townhouses, condominiums, and co-ops. Multi-family homes are not available for this program. Only single families, condos, townhouses, and cooperatives. The property must be located in Westchester County. You do not have to live in Westchester County right now. You just have to purchase in Westchester County. It can be combined with other eligible grant programs. That's really, really important. You can layer your grant funding and go into your home purchase with equity just off of grant purchases. For instance, CHI will give you $40,000. Then you can go to Sony Mae, which is a state of New York mortgage assistance program, and get $9,000 from them. Then you can go to the Homebuyer Dream program, which is given to you from the Federal Home Loan Bank, which is another $9,000. Then you can partner with Citibank, who has Home Run, and they'll give you $5,000. All of that is grant money. You have to time it out properly, apply for these grants, because many of them have the same requirements, many of them ask for the same documents, but you have to time it out and you have to do your research. We're here to help you. We do not apply for the other grants for you, but we will let you know what's available to you so that you can layer these grants and make the most of it. How nice would it be to go into a house where you have $60,000 of equity solely from grants? Not your money, solely from grants. So that's definitely something that you want to consider. And you cannot be in contract to purchase, as I said earlier. Oh, here we go. So here are the income limits. So they're pretty substantial. I kind of want to get out of the way so you guys can see what they are. The grant program is available in Westchester County, Nassau, and Suffolk as well. However, we're presenting in Westchester. So the income limits are adjusted annually, and they're based on the area median income. So this is what they are for this year, and this was just updated in the middle of May. So these are our most current income limits. These are some of our participating lenders. People always have questions about who we work with. So Citibank is here with us today. We have M&T Bank, PCSB, Webster Bank, Santander. So they're larger banks that are reputable that you know of. However, like the Rocket Mortgages of the world, if you submit an application with one of them, we cannot accept it. It has to be from one of our lenders. So it's here, this information is on our website, but we also have a handout outside where you can get a list of all of our participating lenders. So what's the process? The first step is to attend our orientation. At the conclusion, Jessica will be outside with her laptop and she can actually help you register on our website for our orientation. Or you can go on your own to our website, www.communityhousing.org, and register. It's a 90 presentation. It's completely online. You can take it from the comfort of your home. They're on Thursdays nights, and we have 2 a month, one for Westchester and one for Long Island. From there, you complete the 8-hour education course. You get a pre-approval from our lender. You download our application with all of your required documents, and you mail it in. It's pretty easy. It's pretty self-explanatory. From there, you go through intake, you go through financial assessment and counseling, where we see if you're actually eligible for the program, and if you're deemed eligible, then you receive a grant certificate and you can move forward with the purchase of your home. So, if you are not interested in the grant program or you want to move to Rockland or Putnam or Dutchess, we have our Smart Move Down Payment Assistance Loan. So this is a loan, it's not a grant, which means you have to repay it. It's also 20% of the purchase price, and what this does is it helps you avoid PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. So that's the purpose of this program here. Same qualification criteria pretty much, first-time home buyer. You can actually use this program if you want to buy a 2 or 3, 4 family house. Up to 4 family houses you can use for the Smart Move. You only need 1% of an asset requirement for this program. So if you want to buy a co-op in New Rochelle that's $100,000, you only need 1% of that to qualify. The participating lenders for Smart Move are Citibank, M&T, Peoples. Can you just go back? Oh, there we go. Ulster Savings Bank, Webster Bank. Again, this is a loan, it's not a grant, and this cannot be combined with our grant program, so it's one or the other. You either qualify for our grant program or you apply for our down payment assistance loan. You must have an accepted offer on the property, and the interest rate for the loan is 3%, and there's a 3.75 loan origination fee for this program as well. And again, you need to complete the 8-hour education course. These are some of the counties where you can buy a home. So if you don't want to stay in Westchester, this goes all the way up to Columbia Green. So we have pretty much all of the Hudson Valley and a little farther north covered if you want to buy a home. All right. Does anybody have any questions? Mm-hmm. So for the renovation component, the question is, if you didn't hear, how does the renovation component work? So the way that works is this. We have a HUD-certified rehabilitation contractor that goes in, they looks at your property. CHI will address any health and safety needs first. What does that mean? If your roof is falling, we're not going to paint your bathroom. If your stairs are collapsing, we're not going to give you new carpet. Whatever is health and safety, we will address first. From there, we will make any cosmetic changes. I can't tell you specifically what those are because every property is different. We do have an approved list of contractors that our clients do have to work with. They are MBWE, which is Minority Business Woman Enterprises. Yes, that's applicable to condos and co-ops as well. So all of our properties, you have to have the 49-51% split. Yes, or structural as well. Sometimes we've seen with some of the condos, the floors are uneven, so we would fix the floors. Any other questions? Good morning. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was wondering, how would your program apply to foreclosures?
For the foreclosure aspect, sure. We offer foreclosure counseling. We would assist with a loan modification, forbearance, whatever. We would first see what you want to do with your property, right? Because if you want to retain your property, then that's how we would assist you. But if you feel that it's time to move on from it, then we would help you with your loss mitigation options. We provide counseling. We also go to court. My counselor goes to court every Monday with people who are in court and acts as an advocate with our clients.
I was also wondering, like, say if you saw a foreclosed property, because sometimes I've been looking for a home in this area for the last, 10 years. It's been very, very difficult. And some of the property I have noticed are foreclosed. Do you guys work with, like, say if I wanted to purchase a foreclosure home?
Oh, if you want to purchase a
Yes.
foreclosure. Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question. Yes, you can purchase a foreclosure or a short sale. What a lot of people are doing right now to make themselves as competitive is waiving their inspection. And if you do that with CHI, we actually have you sign a document and notarize it because we do not recommend that. So if you're interested in a foreclosure or short sale, you definitely want to have your property inspected just to make sure, because sometimes the previous homeowner, they're upset that they have to leave their house in that way, and they may have done something to the property that you may not see. So you want to make sure you have a really good home inspector to review the property to make sure that it's safe for you to live in, because you don't want to find out the reason why your toilet is getting clogged is because they put cement down there. You know, just different things like that. You're welcome. I think it's really important that for first-time home buyers or just home buyers in general that we're realistic. I know myself, I love to watch HGTV, but that's not what it's like. When you're buying a home, you're not going to stroll into 3 houses, I want that one. That's not what it's going to be like. It's going to take a lot of work. You have to take the process very seriously, and if you do that, you will be successful. Ask questions if you don't understand something. Don't sign documents that are blank. Don't let someone yes you to death, and don't work with anyone who does everything. You need checks and balances in place to take care of yourself to make sure you're not being taken advantage of. So that's really, really important, and that's one of the things that we stress with our first-time home buyers. Sometimes we are hard on you guys, but it's because we love you and we want to see you do really, really well. I started as a counselor, so I would literally look through my clients' bank statements and see that they were spending $800 on Uber Eats. You're literally eating your house. So think about how you're spending your money. Think about your credit. Keep your credit card balances under 30%. Don't take out loans. Don't buy a car, especially not if you want to get a house anytime soon. All of these things cause fluctuations in your credit report and can directly impact how much house you can afford. If you've been paying attention, you know that interest rates are going up. So 6 months ago, with the same credit, same income, everything consistent, you could afford $400,000 worth of house. With the rise in interest rates, now your buying power is decreased to about $315,000. So these are the things you need to take into consideration. You also need to take into consideration that you have to be open-minded. We're not all going to get a single-family house with a picket fence and a garden. Sometimes a house is a cooperative, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes it's a co-op. So change your perspective. At least get a property, get some equity, use that to buy what you want in the future. Your first house doesn't have to be your forever house, but you should start somewhere. You're never too young. You can be 18 or older, and you're never too old. So don't let anybody put you on a time frame. When you're ready to buy a house, it's up to you, but be smart about it.
Going back to predatory lending, a few years ago, there was a spike in predatory lenders, and a lot of people got caught in that situation. And in my position as Commissioner of Public Housing, I run into quite a few people that have walked away from properties because they kept going up on the interest, fluctuating interest rates, even increasing payments and their primary payments. Is there anything that you can help with people that have had problems with predatory lenders? Because I know some people that the lenders are in jail now,
Yeah.
but they still had to walk away from the house, or they lost the house. Is there anything that you can address with that?
If they've already, okay.
Tiffany, can you define predatory lending? Not everyone knows
Yeah,
what predatory lending is.
predatory lending is very interesting because a lot of things that we don't consider predatory lending are predatory lending. Predatory lending is having unfair or unreasonable interest rates on terms on lending products. So what's predatory lending? A payday loan. A lot of people don't really know that a payday loan is predatory lending. But if you take out a payday loan for $500 and you have to pay them back $1,000, that's predatory. Or if you have a mortgage and your mortgage rate starts out at 3% and it adjusts every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, and somehow you wind up spending 20%, that's predatory. It looks different to different people. Credit cards can be predatory. And a lot of credit card practices you have to be careful with. If you're late on one credit card, your other credit cards could increase your interest rate even though you weren't late on them. So that's predatory, but it's legal. But those are some examples of predatory lending. To answer your question, when it comes to predatory lending, if they've already left a property, unfortunately we can't help. But if they're still in there, we can help them try to work with their lender to get a loan modification or work with another lender to get another loan that has better terms.
Any other questions?
Hi.
Hi.
I see it says here that you have to have sufficient financial resources and credit score to obtain the mortgage.
Yeah.
What credit score do you recommend having?
So CHI does not have a credit score requirement, but our lenders do. So most lenders say 620. When Paula gets up, maybe she can tell you what they are. But even if your credit score is below that, we have lenders where you can get an FHA loan, which is a government-backed loan that has no credit score requirement at all. But we do not have a credit requirement, but your credit needs to be sufficient to get a pre-approval.
Question over here.
About how do I repair my credit? Does CHI offer that services? Or
We
can you
offer a
refer us?
credit review, and we also have another nonprofit that we work with called GreenPath. So it's greenpath.org. They are a nonprofit credit counseling agency, and they can assist you. We're not credit counselors, so what we offer is limited. We can give you some advice, pull your credit report, and go through and tell you what to clean up. But if you want really detailed counseling, you can work with GreenPath.
And there's another question coming online about the contract. You had mentioned in your presentation, and I'm improvising here, you mentioned in your presentation that you cannot purchase a property or enter into a contract without CHI approval.
That's correct.
They want to know,
Because
how does that work, and do they still have to have their own attorney?
their own attorney. So yes, you cannot be in contract to purchase. The reason for that is because we have to go into your property and look at it. We have to make sure that it meets our terms, our health and safety standards, and that your deal makes sense. We have to calculate your housing ratio, your debt to income ratio before you can move into a property, and we can't do that if you're already in contract to purchase. To be candid, our grant program process takes about 2 to 6 months. A lot of that depends on you and how complete your application is and how fast you move it through and how responsive you are to our requests. So if you're already in contract to purchase, it just is too tight of a time frame. You can work with your own attorney if you like. We have attorneys that we recommend for you.
Question. If my income doesn't meet the standard, may I get a cosigner whose income meets requirements?
We do not allow co-signers, only co-applicants. So if the person that you want on the application, they have to live in the property with you, not a co-signer. But we don't discriminate based on income source. It just needs to be verifiable. So if you have Social Security, if you have disability, if you have annuity, any of those, gig employment, if you work at for DoorDash, Uber Eats, we don't discriminate. It just has to be income that we can verify.
Tiffany, what do you mean by gig employment?
Gig employment, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Instacart, those are considered gigs. Lyft, different things like that. As long as we can verify it and it's legal, of course, you can use it to apply to CHI. But as far as income is required, we don't have a minimum income limit, just a maximum income limit. And with that, if you get a property that makes sense for you, that's something that you can afford, that really shouldn't be the problem. The problem comes in is when your income is low and you want a property that you can't afford.
We're good on time. And Tiffany, question, James.
They're asking, how much do I need in the bank for pre-approval?
The 3% of your asset, 3% of your purchase price. So I can't give you a firm figure. When you talk to your mortgage lender will let you know what you're pre-approved for. And then 3% of that is what you need to have available. You can also use gift funds, which is if you have a relative that wants to gift you money towards your home purchase, you can use your retirement funds, stocks, bonds, sales of an asset as well. We just need to see it at the time of application.
Tiffany, what about appraisal? Is there where does the appraisal
The
come in?
appraisal comes in with the HUD certified counselor, but that's more of the lender. They would conduct the appraisal and let the client know what the house appraises at.
Great, thanks.
Anything else?
Can we go, we're good on timing. Can we go to the grant making process slide?
Sure.
And I think we should go box by box, Tiffany, if you have
Okay.
time. It's called the grant making slide. It's sort of, we'll give you a minute. Any questions, anyone else, or? Yes.
Good morning. Do your program offer real estate, real estate people that can assist you with finding?
Realtors?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we
realtors,
have
yeah.
realtors. We have a preferred list of realtors that we can work with. You can work with your own realtors, but our realtors are better at helping you identify properties that make sense, because if you work with your own realtor, you want to be very clear that they're not showing you multifamily homes because they don't qualify, or they're not showing you newly rehabbed or newly renovated or newly constructed properties because they won't qualify. So you want to be very candid with your realtor. You want to make sure they're not showing you properties in Dutchess if you want the traditional grant program. So we have realtors that we work with, but we also allow you to work with your own realtor as well if that's your desire.
We have another question from our online participants. We hear about affordable housing being developed in the county, but we never get any information. Is there a source for that?
I would defer that to Ron.
I mean, the term affordable housing is a broad term, right? It's typical, typical that your income, 30% of your income should not exceed the amount that you pay for a home, right? So if you're bringing home, if your gross income, say you make 100,000, 30% of that gross should not exceed the amount that you pay for. That's traditional term of affordable housing, right? So the county has spent, the government, Westchester County itself, plus numerous not-for-profit providers, plus numerous trade associations, plus numerous churches, have been leading a major effort to increase the investment into affordable housing. I like to say affordable housing is for everyone, no matter what your limit is. And here, we're Westchester County, we're seeing folks who've made significant incomes being priced out because of the prices of houses are going above, right? So you can make several $100,000 and still need affordable housing based on the value of the homes there. But there's a particular focus on more affordable housing for low and moderate income people. We need more affordable housing, right? So there's numerous efforts, there are numerous studies, there's a lot of advocacy, a lot of policies, a lot of investment, a lot of organizations. We, CHR, are a leader in the affordable housing space in every way. There's also a need for more supportive housing, which is basically affordable housing with some type of supports for seniors, right? I know we're working with a project with Design Church on that for folks living with HIV, folks struggling with mental illness. There's more need for supportive housing, which is housing plus the supports. There's more need for affordable housing, with affordable home ownership, which is the purpose of this, really, to make sure home ownership is affordable. So typically, as Tiffany was saying, you can't sort of purchase a home and then 70% of your income goes just to buying the home, because what do you have other expenses, you have childcare, you have food, you have other expenses. So having a balanced spending expense budget is very important. That's why budgeting is important, financial literacy is important, and reasonably purchasing there. But affordable housing is key. We will continue to advocate on it. I will continue to have conversations with Pastor and the entire alliance to be much more, and they've been great leaders in that effort in the county for many, many years. But there's a deep need for affordable housing, because studies have shown basically that the average Westchester County resident is spending like 60% of their income on housing. And because of that, they're squeezed. And sometimes people choose between food for that month, quality food for that month, and paying their mortgage or their rent, right? The Westchester County Index is very powerful because it does give you the poverty rates in the county. It gives you the affordability rates for home ownership, even for rentals, because even rentals, as many of you know, are significantly high as well. So it's not just the housing, but also rentals are pretty high in the county. Yes. It is on the exactly. It is on the advocacy portion, because really the purpose of more affordable housing is not just home ownership. Well, home ownership is one aspect of it. You always hear about affordable housing, which typically is rental housing, right? More rental housing or subsidized housing, et cetera. And home ownership is always left on the side, where we know that's really where you build equity. That's where you build wealth. That's where you build assets. You can't really build wealth assets on rental. But you have to be reasonable based on your income and what's available. The second is what's the availability, what's the supply, right? Given the way the county's laid out, what's the supply of available apartments or available houses? You could have the income, but if you don't have the stock, the housing stock, right, then it becomes a tough choice. And as mentioned, Pastor mentioned, Bishop mentioned, what's ending up happening is many people are moving out of the county into Putnam, some are going into Orange County, et cetera, just for the affordability factor, right? The index also states that affordability is a massive issue here, particularly in the county. 2 to 3, if you read the index, says 2 to 3 is the average. We, African Americans, blacks, are spending almost twice as much, so it's very highly unaffordable on them. We're spending an average of 60% of our income versus a standard of 30% on housing. Did that answer your question, sir? Okay.
Kudos to our online folks. They're peppering us with questions here. They would like to have you revisit the maximum income limit. And then the second question is, are there any grant programs available if I want to buy a two-family home as a way of helping cover my mortgage payments and building equity?
Yes, you can use our Smart Move down payment assistance loan if you want to buy a multifamily home. This is a Smart Move. So this is the program that you can use if you want to buy the multifamily home. However, they do require, if you buy a multifamily home, that you take a landlord course. So that way you know your laws, you're educated, and you know how to protect yourself when you become a landlord. That's very important. It's very hard to get people out of their home or out of your home if they're not paying you. And this is pre-pandemic. So you want to understand the law, understand your rights, and know what their rights are, because this is your investment that you're letting people live in. So you want to make sure you're educated on how to move forward and proceed if needed.
Income limits. So can you pull the income there?
This is the income limits for the grant program. Did you need the income limits for the grant program or for Smart Move? So this is the grant programs for, this is the income limits for our grant program. And of course, it's Westchester, Nassau, or Suffolk.
So I could read it here actually if folks can't see it online. for household size, one, a single person, Westchester, 77,700. For a family of two, this is the maximum gross household income based on family size. So in Westchester, if you have a family, say a couple, or husband and wife, 88,700. That's to be eligible for this particular grant, right, Tiffany?
Correct.
Family of three, say husband, wife, and a child, 99,800. Family of four, 110,900. Family of five, 119,800. Family of six, 128,600. Here in Westchester County, the numbers are there for Nassau and Suffolk, a little higher just based on the income levels for Long
And to
Island.
clarify, it's household size. It's not applicant. So if
Yeah.
you are two adults and you have adult children and they're working, we will calculate their income. It's household size, not the applicants.
And just to be clear, that is the maximum.
That is the maximum.
We do not have a minimum income limit. You just need to have income.
Remember, the purpose of this is to make affordable homeownership more for moderate families and individuals, right?
Sure.
Hi, I'm Pastor Williams. I'm from the Bronx, but I am also a realtor in Tarrytown. My experience has been that the taxes, even if the person can
Yes.
afford the house, the taxes are something that once they cross that line into Westchester, it becomes unaffordable. How do you work with that? And also, the process, I've tried to work with your program, it takes a while. So are you moving quicker with that, or?
It's 3 to 6 months because we're very in depth. So you have your intake process where we make sure that we have a full application with all required documentation, and then the financial assessment and counseling, because our counselors are very thorough. They're going to work with you. They're going to give you an action plan. Then they're going to follow up to make sure you're staying on track. If we ask you to increase your assets, we want to make sure that over the next month you're actually saving the money that we asked you to save, that you're increasing your credit. So it's not just about getting you into a house. We want to make sure that you can obtain a house, sustain a house, and maintain the house. So that's really important. So that's why it takes time. It's not slow moving without purpose. There's a purpose behind it because we're consistently working with our clients.
And to add to that, if you could pull up the grant-making process slide. Pastors, I'm doing a time check. We're good on time. We're great on time. Sure. And just the history of predatory lending, particularly to black folks, just, you know, on timing. Part of predatory lending is everything is very quick. And because everything is very quick, there's very little due diligence. So the amount, just like anything in life, you know, things are quick and then the consequences are long term, right? You know, they're very quick and then the consequences last generations. You know, I, like probably many of you, have lived the consequences of actions of financial misaction, you know, or miseducation or misinformation from my family for generations, right? So the process is due to protect you, the consumer, the potential homeowner, to do things in diligence and excellence and integrity, and to comply with the standards of New York State. So it's a slide that has the boxes. We just want to go through the boxes. There we go. All right.
So yes, that's the orientation, which I just spoke about earlier. That's a 90-minute presentation that we have where we go over the full process. So this is abbreviated because this is a special presentation, but when you sign up on our website, you will get the full explanation, all of the guidelines on the orientation. Then you have to complete the 8-hour course. That information is available on our website. It's also on our handouts that we gave to you as well.
The 8-hour course is online?
Yes,
correct?
you take it online at your leisure.
Okay.
What that explains is, you know, buying a house, managing your house, sustaining your house. It covers your credit, your debt, and just goes over all of those caveats that you need to understand when you're buying a house for the first time or buying a house in general. And then you would need to work with a participating lender to get a pre-approval. That process is about 2 to 3 days, but Paula can tell you what to expect there. That way you know how much house you can afford. That's really, really important. So that way you can understand what you're going to be spending on your mortgage each month, and start budgeting towards that.
The first two boxes are very important because that is the prime educational component. Right, that determines, will help you determine if you're ready what do you need to do to become ready to
Yes.
purchase a home, right? One of the things that we, like in anything, we need to determine how sound we are financially. What's the amount of education? Do we have old habits, financial habits, that we need to work on to make us prepared to own a home?
Yeah. And then you would complete our application. The application is on our website. You can download it. It's a PDF form and it's fillable. It's fillable, so you can type it in online. We just ask that if you print it out, you write neatly. We're human beings, so we need to understand what you're saying, and sometimes we just can't read the handwriting, and that delays because we have to call you and ask you questions. From there, you have intake. You have financial assessment and counseling. That's when we look at your credit. That's when we look at your debt. That's when we look at your income to make sure that you meet our ratios. And we may say, you know what, you're not quite there yet. We'll give you another 30 days and reevaluate your application. But sometimes maybe the debt is just too high and you need longer, so we would just tell you to reapply. If you don't pass through the first time, you can reapply. There's no limit to how many times you apply for the grant program. We've had people apply 3 times and they become successful in the 3rd try. We've had people who just got through the process and they weren't ready to be a homeowner, and that's fine. Sometimes it's a really big purchase. So if you're not ready to be a homeowner, that's okay. And they wait a year or 2 until they're ready, and then they reapply at that time. So then you receive your grant certificate, and that's when you can shop for your home. That's the fun part.
Yeah, we have 2 questions online that generally in the same direction, and it is, how do we get the information presented today, and is it possible to get a copy of the slides that you presented? And if so, how do they go about getting that?
The information is on our website, www.chigrants.org. You can also register for the orientation, and then from there, we will send you all the handouts once you complete the orientation. And we can email it to you too.
And we'll send the Alliance the entire package so you can share directly at church, et cetera. So I'm doing a time, thank you, Tiffany. We're doing a time check. It's 11 a.m. Let's all give Tiffany a hand for the outstanding presentation and her work. So for the next few minutes, I'll introduce Paula from 11 to 11:30 or whatever time is necessary, and then we'll open it up again for questioning and answering by 11:30, and then the goal is by 12 p.m. to close out. Paula Greenberg is a homeownership representative. She has over 30 years of banking industry, particularly in the homeownership space. She covers the entire tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Let's welcome Paula Greenberg.
Good morning. I'm going to be talking about the portion of the mortgage process, really. I'm going to be talking about how really buying a home is actually a life experience, and it really is part of what we basically in the mortgage industry call, there is a mortgage road to home ownership. And sometimes it is more of a longer one for some people, but it basically is a journey for all. And it really starts with, interest in what's available out there, just as the attendees are here today and the people who are watching online. There is really an interest in learning about, what home ownership is about, what's out there that's available for me. And then you have to really see where you fit into all of this. And fitting into all of this is basically working one-on-one with a mortgage loan officer, somebody such as me. That's pretty much what I've been doing for my whole adult life. I'm one of the people who's basically, who's basically one of the people that works with buyers. I work with realtors. I work with attorneys, and we work to really help our homeowners, our home buyers become homeowners. And can I have the next slide, please? So there are different steps. So what you're going to do is you're going to start off with a pre-approval letter. A pre-approval letter or the pre-approval process basically is something that a realtor will be looking for so that the realtor will know exactly what you can afford and will be able to work with you to find that specific property that works for you and works for your financial situation. Part of the pre-approval process is basically, as a lender, we're going to look at your credit, we're going to look at your income, your assets, your employment, your liabilities. We're going to look at all those things. And we're going to see, you know, you're going to say, well, I would really like to afford this, 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 and this. And then we'll look at the numbers. And basically, you know, we will talk about really what it is that you're really going to be working on in owning. And if you need to budget yourself so that you need to save more money, or if you need to basically do things of that sort. So by the time that you would really get to us, if you're actually working with CHI, basically you would have done that portion of it. You would have worked out your numbers already. You would have figured out where you belong in the process. A lot of people do not basically, you know, get that service, which is really a benefit to all. So at some point, I will actually sit with people and suggest to them to work with a CHI in working out that information when I meet with them if they haven't actually worked with CHI before. But actually, if you actually are somebody who is in a position to buy, okay, you'll take that pre-approval letter. And the way that I get the pre-approval letter, everything is automated these days. There was a time when I used to do all this manually. But basically, there is a computer program. There are basic questions that I would ask, and the information gets put into the computer system. City will actually be moving very quickly soon so that into the computer system, the borrowers can actually input their information online at some point, which will happen sometime this year. And what will happen is at that point, the computer system comes back and tells you, yes, you've been pre-approved. And it gives you a pre-approved letter. The letter basically gives you your name, your address, it gives you your purchase price, it gives you your loan amount. It will state what the interest rate was on the program that you were discussing with your mortgage loan officer on the day that your credit and your pre-approval was run. At that time, your interest rate is not locked in. Okay, it is basically just a floating rate. It's an indication of where the market was on the day that you applied for the pre-approval. In the state of New York, you need a contract of sale, which is signed by both the buyer and the seller, which is binding the seller at that point to be part of that purchase. All right, and it is at that moment that we're obligated to input the information for your purchase as soon as we get your contract of sale. And at that point, you are allowed to lock in your interest rate because you have a property and you have a seller that is willing to sell you a property. And at that point, what we do is we will actually ask you to, if we haven't done that already, some people like to wait. So there's more than just the pre-approval letter that we can do. Okay, we can do a pre-approved mortgage commitment up front. There is no cost to the pre-approved mortgage commitment. And what we will do is we will have run your credit. We will have all of your information into the computer system. And as it is a digital situation now, we will get your paperwork into your computer file. And an underwriter will review your file, and they will give you actually a pre-approved mortgage commitment, which is based upon your qualifications. And when you go to your realtor or you go to your seller and you say, I would like to buy this property, I am qualified to buy this property, the seller and the realtor will know that you've been viewed by an underwriter, and an underwriter has passed judgment on your being. And then after that, when you go to contract, the only thing that we would really need at that point, we would need the appraisal, The underwriters will review the contract to make sure that it complies with requirements. You know, we will basically confirm everything about you at that point, and we will confirm everything about the property also. We do not do a home inspection. That would be up to you to do, and the home inspection is very important. The home inspection, a realtor once told me, a home inspection is when the buyer becomes intimate with the property that they're buying. And it is really important, even if your purchase price doesn't change, and even if you do not renegotiate the price or ask the seller to make any changes to the property, what happens is you really get to know that property. The home inspector is basically there with you for hours, absolutely hours. And the home inspector is there to answer any questions you have about the property. So once you buy that home, if you don't know really what basically the intricacies of that home are, they're yours after you buy it. You cannot go back to the lender and tell the lender, gee, I have a problem. There's a plumbing problem in my wall. I didn't know about it. Well, you didn't do a home inspection, okay? It is your responsibility. You own the property, okay? You can't go back to the seller. Seller has their money. They're gone to their next property, and it's yours. So the home inspection is very, very important. Very important. The appraisal is also very important. The appraisal is an independent an independent person who is licensed in the state of New York, who goes out and looks at your property and compares that property from what they see to other recent sales in the area within a certain amount of time. And it basically shows what the market value of the house is. It's important for you to know what the appraised value is. How do you know that the seller hasn't agreed to sell you the house for more money than it's actually worth? So it's very important to know the value of the property. There is another way also to get a general idea of the values of the properties. When you're out with your realtor and you're getting serious about houses, one thing to ask your realtor for is to show you comparable sales, recent comparable sales to the house that you're thinking of putting an offer in on, to see basically what would be that comparable value before you actually make an offer on the property. There are times that appraisals come in lower actually in this market than what is agreed upon. For the simple reason there are a lot of people vying for the same house because there are not a lot of houses for sale. There are more buyers than houses, and they do go over, probably sometimes they do go over what the houses are worth. At that time, the guideline basically is that if you agree to buy a house for more money than what it is, the seller doesn't expect you to come back when the appraisal comes in lower to renegotiate the price to that lower value. So the seller is going to want you to buy that house no matter what at that point. And basically what you're going to need to do is the lender, the federal guideline is that we base it upon the lower of the appraised value of the purchase price. So if the purchase price is higher than actually what the appraised value comes in at, we're going to base our underwriting based upon that lower appraised value. So let me give you an example. What's going to happen is let's say you buy something for $110,000 and it appraises at $100,000. And you're going to put 3% down. So what's going to happen is you're going to put 3% down on the appraised value, which is $3,000. So the minimum amount of the mortgage that we will give you on that property is $97,000. We're not going to give you 97% of the $110,000. We're going to give you 97% of the $100,000. The difference between the $100,000 and the $110,000 is considered premium to the seller. So really your down payment is $13,000 at that point. Okay, and that's what it means when you're just, you know, so a lot of people will, I do see it, they don't understand, okay, when they go, wow, I won that house. I was the highest bidder, okay? And then I tell them, well, how much higher did you go than the listing price? And they tell me, and I tell them that qualification. I have seen the market change a little bit. This past week I had a buyer who basically was going to buy a house that was agreed upon, and he was going to pay a premium for the house. And interestingly enough, he did the home inspection. It was in the contract of sale that his contract of sale would be done, his home inspection would be done at a later date, and he would apply for the mortgage first and get it moving along, and he would sign the contract. And when he did the home inspection, he found out some major problems in the property. And that purchase price came down 10%. Okay, the seller balked and got angry, and I guess the realtor told the seller that no matter who wants to buy this house is going to come upon this problem. And that buyer got the house for 10% less than what he had actually negotiated in the beginning. But so that home inspection is very, very important. Very important. Okay, very, very important. Can I have the next screen, please? So I'd like to talk about, I talked about the appraisal. I talked about, we can talk about your employment, which basically has been spoken about already. We're going to confirm your credit history, your assets, your debts, just as every other lender is going to do. And we have different programs that you can basically do this with. So sometimes you want to live in a different area. You know, maybe you want to live in a property that doesn't qualify for possibly a first-time homebuyer program because the condo or the co-op doesn't qualify. Okay, and maybe you know, you really just want to go with a 30-year fixed. You don't really want to be bound to staying in a home for a certain amount of years. You know, there are some people like that. But basically, if you're really looking for a low down payment, it would be with a low down payment first-time home buyer program. Each home buyer program does think of first-time home buyers differently. We have a home run program, and the home run program is an in-house Citibank program for first-time home buyers. You can actually qualify for the home run program if you sell a house before you actually buy a house on the home run program. The home run program is a 30-year fixed conventional mortgage. It doesn't have any mortgage insurance on it. So let me explain what mortgage insurance is. There are two types of mortgage insurance. One mortgage insurance is basically private mortgage insurance. It's called PMI, and it was created in the 1950s by an attorney, and he basically created private mortgage insurance. He created it with $250 from his savings. His name was Max Carl, and he created this mortgage insurance, and it's a wonderful thing. There was mortgage insurance that the title companies used to offer before World War II. At World War II, basically, and the Great Depression, what happened was the mortgage lending really came into existence in the 1880s, and at that time, the down payment was about 50%. of the purchase price. And before that, only people who were wealthy were able to afford homes. So in the 1880s, it was those savings and loans, just like that movie, It's a Wonderful Life. That was a really pretty truthful depiction of how mortgages came into existence. And the saving and loans were doing all the lending in those days. They'd basically shake the hand of the person that they're giving the loan to, and that was really all there was. But there was mortgage insurance at that time that the title companies used to insure. And it originated in the state of New York, believe it or not. And then what happened actually in the when the Great Depression came along, all those guys went out of business, and it was the federal government who stepped in to create viability in the market and who created mortgages. So the mortgages that we know today are the mortgages that were created by the federal government at about in the 1930s and the 1940s. Okay, and first was HUD with FHA and VA loans. They were the first low down payment programs. Then the federal government created Fannie Mae, and then in the 1960s, the federal government created Freddie Mac. And basically, those are basically where we all get our mortgage money today for these programs. So in the 1950s, Max Call created private mortgage insurance. Private mortgage insurance, the way I like to explain it to borrowers is you're going to get homeowners insurance. And homeowners insurance, a tree falls on your house. A couple of years ago, 7 trees fell on my house, okay? And I was astounded. I thought I was going to declare bankruptcy. But I called my home insurance company, and basically my house was put together completely. And then 2 years later, the biggest tree I have on my property fell on my house, and I needed another roof. So something like that happens, and a part of your house is gone, you would call your home insurance company. Well, God forbid, you're basically working and you hurt yourself very badly, you get sick and you can't work for 6 months. Something happens to you, you lose your job or something. The first place that you would go would be your lender to put in a claim to your mortgage insurance company. So your private mortgage insurance company, and the federal government has mortgage insurance that's called MIP. The federal government's MIP is self-insuring, so that's not private. And what would happen is you would contact them to help you not have to leave your house, not to have you declare foreclosure on your house, not any of those things to happen to you. What would happen is the mortgage insurance would help you stay in your home and be able to live there until your life got better again. It was the private mortgage insurance companies that actually helped most of the people through the economic downturn in 2008 and 2009. So if you think of homeowners insurance, okay, you would think of mortgage insurance for your financial ills. There is a day when you don't have mortgage insurance anymore. What would you do? Well, you would go out and get, did you ever see those commercials for the what ifs in life? A tree, the what ifs in life are getting sick and having equity in your home. So everybody here today was talking about creating equity and creating something to hand to your children. I didn't realize it until I was in my house for a good amount of time, and I'm paying my mortgage all those years. I've been in my house quite a long time, and I was a first-time home buyer with a very low down payment when I bought my house too. And what happened was, as I looked at my mortgage statement, and I looked at the amount that I owed on my house, and I went, wow. So this is why my mother told me to buy a house. Okay, so every time you make a mortgage payment, You pay a portion of your mortgage payment to interest, and then you make another portion of the mortgage payment to pay down the mortgage. Okay, so every time you make a mortgage payment, it's like putting ka-ching money into a piggy bank. Okay, because what happens is every month that you make a mortgage payment, you own a little more of your house, even if your house doesn't go up in value. I mean, my house didn't go up in value. I bought my house when everybody bought their houses in the early 2000s, and I was a first-time home buyer program. And it took until recently for my value to go up. But even if I didn't have my value go up, if I were to sell my house, even if my value did not go up, okay, I would get a nice chunk of money back at closing for having lived in the house, for making my mortgage payment. And that's basically the equity that some people leave their children and their grandchildren, because there's equity in the house because the mortgage was paid down or it was paid off. Comparing it to rent, actually, you're making a rent payment to pay off the landlord's mortgage. All right, so when you say, well, the interest rates are going up, well, quite honestly, I never refinanced my interest rate, to be personal about it, and my interest rate is comparable to where the market is now. And I never refinanced it because I just didn't want to put the money into, when you refinance, it's getting a whole new mortgage, and it's thousands of dollars to actually refinance. And even if you put the money into your mortgage payment, you're owing that money. So I came to the decision that I would make little larger payments to my mortgage to pay it down to equal the amount of that. And it worked out fine. So there are different ways to do this, but when you do have a mortgage, basically there is a portion of it that's like putting money in your savings account because you're paying down on the mortgage amount. And there is a day when you don't have a mortgage anymore. Having spoken to lots of people over the years, people think of their mortgage as rent, but actually there should be a day when you pay off your mortgage and you're living in that house, and the only thing you have to pay actually is your real estate taxes and insurance on an annual basis. Okay, and that's a wonderful thing. So I'd like to talk, have I made my half hour? Yeah, all right, so great. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions for Paula? Thank you, Paula. No, stay up, Paula. Stay up, if you don't mind. Just ask some questions.
We have 3 questions from our online audience. 2 of the questions is for CHI, and 1 is for Citibank. The question for Citibank is about the underwriting process. And they're asking, is a manual underwriting process an option versus an automated underwriting system process? And the difference is, I guess, where they're driving at is in the automation, it doesn't take in the ability for human touch and understanding of the circumstances of that individual, and automatically gets rejected. So is there a manual option at Citibank? And then on the other 2 questions.
It's both. It's actually both. There is a manual underwriting process, and there is an automated process. Basically, when I take the pre-approval information, it's really black and white, and I put it through the automated underwriting system, and if I get a pre-approval back, then we move forward with that. If I don't, okay, and there are outstanding items that an underwriter should be reviewing, that's part of the pre-approved mortgage process. I can do that up front for free, and the underwriter can make decisions based upon all of that information. And when the underwriter actually sees it, it is a hands-on underwriting. Is that an answer?
And the other 2 questions are for CHI. The first question, are there any programs or assistance that take into consideration accommodation for individuals with disabilities? And then the second question is, do you help someone get to the point of being ready to buy a home?
So our program takes into accommodation anybody who has disabilities. Will help and will work with anybody. So will Sony Mae, the State of New York Mortgage Assistance Program, and the Homebuyer Dream Program as well. So all three of those programs will be able to help you regardless of your disability, whatever that may be, and if you're receiving disability income. What was the second question? Yes, we offer long-term counseling. So if you're not quite ready yet, we can help you get there. You can get in contact with one of our counselors. They will review your credit with you. They will review your spending with you, put you on a budget and an action plan, and help you get to the point to where you're ready to move forward with our grant program. That's a great question.
For Citibank, could you talk more about how to, in case you get a loan, your income is at one level, and say, for instance, you're at the 30%, which is normal for a payment, and you get increases in your salary, how can they pay on the principal of the loan going forward at a non-penalty state rather than just making the same payment? Can you talk more about that?
None of these loans have prepayment penalties, and I kind of alluded that I've done that myself. And the way to do it is you get a little payment receipt that most people will give back when they make their mortgage payment. And there is a spot that says additional amounts of money to principal, and you would put the amount that you would want to put in there to principal. If you've authorized the lender to actually automatically take money out of your account, you would call up customer service and you would tell them, I would like to put an extra $100 a month to principal, and they will do that for you automatically. But none of these loans have prepayment penalties.
I also just want to add to that point, if you make one additional mortgage payment every year, you will shave 7 years off of the life of your loan. One full mortgage payment every year, so instead of making 12, you make 13. Tell them you want the 13th payment to be only principal. You will turn a 30-year mortgage into a 23-year mortgage. I also want to say that I spoke about Homebuyer Dream, spoke about Sony Mae. One of the other programs that we partner with is Section 8. That's really, really important. So if you have a Section 8 voucher, you can use your Section 8 voucher to purchase a home. That voucher can be combined with CHI's grant program and Sony Mae as well. That's really important that people understand that. You don't have to be a perpetual or life renter with Section 8. They will use whatever your voucher amount is towards your mortgage payment for 15 years. So they will not pay for your mortgage the full 30 years, but they pay for half. And you can use that money to buy a home. It's really, really important.
That's a great point. So can you just say that again, clarify, say that all over again? There's a significant number of our folks on Section 8.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Section 8, you can use your Section 8 voucher to buy a home. You use your Section 8 voucher to buy a home. You talk to CVR, tell them you're interested in buying a home. They will tell you what you qualify for. For 15 years, they will pay your voucher amount towards your home, and that can be combined with our grant program. There are specific lenders that you have to work with, though. I will say that. Like M&T is one of our Section 8 lenders, but you can use that to buy a home. We actually had someone who's closing with a Section 8 voucher on Tuesday.
With that second, you just turned on the light bulb with me. With that Section 8, do you still required to make the 30% like Section 8 requires for, or the difference between the mortgage and the Section 8 and whatever the rent is?
Yes, they would still have to pay their portion towards whatever the difference is for their mortgage. They would be responsible for that. And after the 15 years, they will be responsible for the full mortgage payment. I also want to say that anybody that lives in New Rochelle has a down payment assistance assistance loan, no, grant, that's phenomenal. They will give you 19% of your down payment in the form of a grant. You just need the 1% asset requirement. You must be a resident of New Rochelle, and you have to buy in New Rochelle. They will give you 19%. What that means is so important, that's powerful. You're buying a house with no private mortgage insurance. You can use that money that you're saving to pay down the principal on your home. And it's also important, the people in New Rochelle advocated for this. So if you live in White Plains, if you live in Peekskill, Port Chester, Mount Vernon, advocate for this program. They went directly to the federal government and advocated to have this program come to New Rochelle. So get on the board, talk to your elected officials and advocate for this. This isn't something that just came about. They worked for it. And if it can happen in New Rochelle, it can happen anywhere in Westchester County.
You could join us in that advocacy, CHI. Question on the PMI, right? The 20% down payment. Can you either one of you clarify
Talk a little bit more about PMI?
There's a law called the Homeowners Protection Act of 1999, which covers private mortgage insurance. It doesn't cover the mortgage insurance premium on FHA loans and VA loans. They work differently. On an FHA loan, the mortgage insurance basically goes down annually a little bit, and it lasts almost to when the mortgage is paid off. So most of the FHA loan, basically, you have mortgage insurance. A veteran basically has an upfront VA fee. It's usually about 3% of the mortgage amount. So if they're buying, a $100,000 house, it turns out to be a lot of money. So what happens is the veteran is allowed to finance that money, all right? But monthly, the veteran will not have any mortgage insurance payment. And veterans and their spouses will actually be able to get a VA loan. The Homeowners Protection Act covers private mortgage insurance, and that would cover mortgage insurance, everything other than FHA and VA loans. And basically it states that, at a closing, a lender is required to give you an amortization table showing you exactly if you were to make your payment for, let's say your loan is a 30-year loan and you made your payment monthly for 30 years, just as you did, that amortization table would show you how your equity would increase and how your mortgage amount would decrease. And that's a requirement for lenders to do. So the Homeowners Protection Act requires that, according to that amortization table, when you get to 20% of the original equity in the property, which would have been the appraised value at that time, that's the number that uses. You have the option, the lender has the option of relieving you of the mortgage insurance at that time. And it all depends upon whether or not you've made your mortgage payment in a timely manner. So your recent payments on your mortgage need to be current at that time. If it is a market where the values are decreasing at that time, the appraiser can, the lender can say, well, I'm not doing it. This is a decreasing market, but at 22% equity in the property according to the amortization schedule, even if you haven't made the last payment on a timely basis, the Homeowners Protection Act requires that the lender release the mortgage insurance. But like I said, there is a benefit to mortgage insurance.
I think we're doing a disservice because we're speaking to you guys as if you know what private mortgage insurance is. So let me explain what private mortgage insurance is. PMI, private mortgage insurance, protects the lender, not you. If you default on your mortgage, you're paying insurance to pay the lender back. So that's really important that you guys understand that. And you have PMI when you have a down payment of 20% or less because you're considered risky. So that's why it's really important that you consider how much money you put down on your property. So we will take you if you have 1% or 3%. However, if you have 20%, you're not paying private mortgage insurance. Why should you pay the lender insurance if you lose your home? that's essentially what it is. And I don't think we explained that, and I just wanted to explain that to you guys so you can understand what it is exactly.
Yeah, there's, I guess, 2 questions for CHI and maybe 3 questions, and maybe it's combined with Citibank. The first question is around the time period it takes to get through the counseling process.
The counseling is different for everybody. There's some people that come in and they're ready to go. If you're ready to go, we help you get there. But there's some people that need a little more hand-holding. Your debt is a little high, so we're going to monitor your debt for a little while. Your credit may not be the best, and we want to see you maybe get an increased pre-approval because your pre-approval may not suffice to get the property that you want. Or maybe your assets are just at 3%, and we want to see you have a little bit more money to be secure. So it can take anywhere, depending upon the person, 2 months to 6 months, but it's specific to everybody and where you are. But if you're ready to go, you can get through the process in about 2 months.
And the second question is around the veterans programs. They want to know, can you, speak a little bit more to that? And
Sure,
what does that
I'll
mean
let Paula
as a
talk
veteran?
about. But we will accept a VA loan, USDA loan, FHA loan, and conventional mortgage.
VA loans are particular to veterans, and it all depends upon their eligibility. So when a veteran determines that they would like to buy a home, what they do is they take their DD-214, and then they go online or they go down to one of the VA offices and they talk to, they get their eligibility. Their eligibility will determine how much, based upon what kind of service that the veteran gave to the federal government, the maximum amount that they would be able to get. That doesn't mean that they don't have to qualify for that amount. They do have to qualify for that amount based upon income, employment, assets, debt, liabilities. Okay, so they have to completely qualify for that mortgage. The federal government allows the veteran and the veteran's spouse to be an owner on the property. Well, the veteran can do up to 100% financing. Okay, rates are forever changing.
Question. Circling back to Section 8, if you're being displaced due to demolition, how does that work for working with the program or any types of loan or grant-based process?
Are you going to retain the voucher?
Yes.
If you retain the voucher, you can still use it. Is it a project-based voucher or a housing choice voucher?
Housing choice voucher.
Yeah, the housing choice voucher is fine. As long as you retain the voucher, you can use it. Even if you're, in transition, as long as you have the voucher, you can use it to buy your home. Talk to, especially if something's happening with the property or what have you, talk to your caseworker, let them know that you're interested in buying a home. Call one of the lenders, get in contact with CHI, and we can help you navigate the process. Just don't lose the voucher. If you lose the voucher, there's nothing we can do at that point.
Doing a 15-minute time check. Question, James? You have another question? Can you the difference between FHA versus conventional loan? What's the difference?
An FHA loan is a government-backed loan. The interest rate is usually a little bit higher because people who typically apply for a FHA loan are considered a little more risky. Their credit is maybe somewhat challenged. Did you want to speak to it a little bit more? Yeah, sure.
FHA loans are government-backed securities, and yes, the people who will get an FHA loan are more challenged than other programs. The credit the credit requirements are lower. Each lender is different. Technically, yes. Tiffany mentioned before that FHA does not have a minimum credit score, but when the economic downturn happened, the federal government said to the lenders that they had to adhere to a certain amount of loans going bad, a percentage, and at that point, lenders went in and they made minimum credit scores on their FHA loans. But FHA, basically technically doesn't have a minimum credit score. You can actually use a community association to be able to help you with your closing costs, and you can do that with an FHA loan. There's a way where actually you could do a seller concession towards closing costs, where you can actually have the seller pay your closing costs, and you can include that in your mortgage. So that's available also. And realtors actually know how to negotiate that. Yes?
They put the closing costs actually on the back of their mortgage.
Yes.
So
I
we
said-
get people who want to argue with us about whether the seller is paying their closing costs. They're actually just adding it to the back.
Well, that's what FHA calls it. A seller is paying their closing costs, and that's basically the technical term for the guideline, and that's really what we use. But yes, basically the borrower has the ability to finance their closing costs through the FHA, yes.
So a lot of, the concept, we talked a lot about down payment, but as far as closing costs, right? So at least the minimum 3%. Should folks be saving for closing costs?
Yes, and CHI helps with closing costs. Closing costs are typically 2 to 7% of the purchase price, roughly in there.
That's the range.
It depends. Yeah, it's a range. But yes, you have to save for the closing costs. So that's a really, really important fee for New York State. They have the New York State mortgage tax, which I think last time I worked in banking was like $4,000. You have to pay your attorney. You have to pay for your inspection. All of these fees, they add up. So yes, closing costs can be very expensive. And we live in Westchester County, which is a very expensive area. So that also plays a part in how much you're going to pay on the closing costs. Did you want to talk a little bit about it?
So closing costs, fixed closing costs pretty much include your credit, there is an appraisal, you're going to pay for an attorney. New York is an attorney state, so is Connecticut. You're going to pay for title. This is the United States. In other parts of the world, basically the government actually states that, yes, we guarantee that you own the house free and clear. But in the United States, what happens is that you get this insurance, and your attorney will do a title search through a title company to confirm that you have clear title when you close on the loan, when actually you buy the house.
There's been a lot of investment from a federal and state level, the governor and the president, particularly on affordable housing. Some of it includes ARPA, includes more investment on home ownership. Does Citibank have any particular new programs based on the amount of new budgeted infusion, both on the state and federal levels, to increase home ownership across the board?
I'm somebody who is down and dirty.
Okay.
Okay, so I only know what we have at the moment. I don't know what they might be working on.
Okay.
Okay, in the background. Okay, but
That's
I'm one
fair.
of those down and dirty people.
Okay, I can get down and dirty, and I'll get the larger question. I have the answer to the larger question for the congregation at another time. Any questions, any further questions before we start wrapping up? Anyone missing? We've covered. Yes, sir.
So within the process of CHI, working with you guys in the sense of getting prepared for the buying process, I know that you said it takes roughly, based on how quick you answer everything or how much of the document you have, it takes about 2 to 6 months. Going back with the lending process, I know that the going back to get qualified for lending, there would be a credit pull. Would that be associated with the CHI, or would that be then a second credit pull to get everything situated when ready to be purchased?
Great question. CHI will pull your credit, but we're a nonprofit agency, so it will be no impact to your credit. If you're getting pre-approvals, we recommend that you get pre-approvals from 3 different lenders. So although Citibank is here, we have a list of about 15, 16 lenders that we work with, and we recommend that you get pre-approvals from multiple lenders. If you have your credit pulled by 3 different lenders within a 30-day time frame, it's only 1 hit to your credit. So the credit bureaus understand that you're shopping for a home, so they won't impact your credit every time that your credit is pulled. Depending upon the lender, the pre-approval is good for 60 days or 90 days. So if you have to get an updated pre-approval, that will be another impact on your credit, and that's the reason why many of our clients tend to move forward a little bit faster. And just to clarify, you can move to the portion to where you're ready to buy a home, but we're still counseling you. We're still looking at your credit. We're still looking at your assets. We're still looking at your debt up until you close. So all of that time is considered as well. And sometimes we recommend that you get another pre-approval because after counseling, your credit went up, your debt went down, and you may be able to afford more home, and you have stronger buying power. So it may behoove you to get another pre-approval later on in the grant process.
Yes, sir. One more question? Yep. We have time for 3 more questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
So I know that CHI doesn't do necessarily multi-family. However, what about a process where like a family has an ADU, which is like
like a mother-daughter?
A mother-daughter.
No. You could use Smart Move for that, though, but no, not like a mother-daughter, no. Maybe like a basement, though? That could work.
Actually, it's an important point. There was a lot of recent conversation on that particular issue with regards to doubling up and addressing the affordable housing issue statewide, particularly here in Westchester County, that was shot down and shot down for various reasons. A lot of it cultural reasons from other communities, but it is a way to address affordable housing here in our county.
A mother-daughter basically is an accessory apartment, and it legally has to be an accessory apartment at town hall, so it has to be on the tax records. And for a mortgage lender, that's considered a single-family residence.
Thank you. Well, let's thank Paula and Tiffany, Citibank and CHI for the great workshop, great seminar. I think we comprehensively covered everything from getting ready, having the desire and the dream to own a home, the purpose of owning a home, wealth creation, generational home ownership. Ownership is important. We talked about the process, the education process that is needed, the counseling process, the preparation process, right? We talked about down payment, the appraisal, the entire home ownership process, both from the not-for-profit end, the supportive end, and also from the banking end. I think it was a very comprehensive seminar across the board. And I'll pass it to Pastor on next steps, but CHI will continue to work in partnership with WCA and the entire community. It's a worthy investment. We know that from all harvests, you plant a seed, and we planted a seed of education for us as a community to provide, to have the education so that we can pass it on to future generations. We can sustain our current situation, but pass it on for future generations. So on behalf of CHI, and also Citibank, thank you for this, Pastor and team.
Yes, okay. So thank you again. Pastor opened up with a word of praise, so let's close with a benediction. Would you please stand? Thank you for attending this seminar. We know that you have heard something today that will set you on your pathway, on the path to home ownership. And we thank Citibank, thank CHI for being with us today, this afternoon. So let us have a word of prayer. God, our Father, we do thank you for what we've heard and experienced this afternoon, this morning. God, and if there are some who are listening to us today who are excited about the next step in moving toward home ownership and establishing generational wealth, we pray that you would open that door for them, give them the courage to step through. Thank you for the resources available this morning. We ask it all in Christ's name. Amen.